Hey everyone, thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of Women of DevOps. Today we're joined by Sarah Veselov, and this is going to be a little bit different than our usual episode, so I really hope you stick around. Sarah works on UX design for DevOps tooling. She's worked at companies like GitLab, CloudBees, and Honeycomb, so this is going to be a really cool conversation around design and user experience. So hi.
Hey.
To start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so got my name right. Pronunciation was perfect, Sarah Veselov. So you didn't mess up there.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So right now, I am the director of design at Honeycomb. I've been there 2 years, which is like mind blown. That feels like forever in the startup world. But I love it there. I've spent my time building the design team. I started as kind of lone designer, senior product designer, with the intent of building the team. They brought me on board to kind of get an idea of what was needed and lay the groundwork and then start building that team. And that's what I've been doing. And we have just an incredible team of designers right now working on that product. And I'll be doing a lot of hiring in 2022, just saying. Putting it out there. Yeah, as far as me, oh boy, I've been doing this a really long time. I have been in tech for, I don't like to say it, but like 20 years. But I mean, like the tech we know today, I would say since 2015, 14, 15, however long that makes it. But I've been doing design and development for about 20 years. I started out in fine arts. I thought I was going to go to art college and draw naked people and be in a museum and make lots of money. And I spent like 1 year and then I like freaked out and I was like, I'm never going to make any money doing this. It's like, this is nuts. I saw my student loans going crazy and I quit. I like ran away. And then I came back for more and then I was like, no, this is still crazy. This is still stupid. And I came back for a third time, but when I came back the third time, I'd gotten smarter and I went for computer animation. And I thought, computers, but lots of drawing, like this sounds like something I could do. And by the time I finished that degree, I had lots of skills in Illustrator and Photoshop and typography, and like I had a lot of graphic design skills, but I really was not a great animator. I kind of like sucked at it. I could like I was really good at matte painting and making things like look good, but I couldn't really animate it very well. And so I found my way into web design. I had to actually build a portfolio to go out there and and hawk myself as an animator, even though I was like, well, I don't know about this. But I fell in love with web design. It was really something, the process of building it was just really exciting to me. And that was at a time when you did everything, right? Like you designed it and you built it in HTML. And this was when CSS had just come out. And like I was cutting out pieces of PNGs to make rounded corners. And I was like, I'm a wizard, like I'm amazing. And so like I did that whole thing. And I found myself really gravitating more towards jobs that were graphic design, web focused. And I started taking classes in HTML and CSS. And that was really where a lot of my early days were spent, just hacking it up on the web. And doing lots and lots of design work. And then as I progressed, I became a creative director and I was working with signage and things like that. And then a lot of heavy e-commerce. And I really felt like front-end developer was kind of like where I was going to be. And that's how, that's where everything was taking me. CSS was something I just was naturally really good at. And I just like CSS it clicked for me. Like it made so much sense. And everyone that hated it just didn't get it. Like they just didn't take the time to get it. And then like JavaScript took over and all of a sudden JavaScript like blew up and JavaScript didn't click for me the way CSS did. And so I decided like, I can do this. So I went and I did a front end. I'm giving you, this isn't a little bit about myself, by the way. This is like the whole shebang. So I hope you're ready.
This is good. I like the whole shebang.
You're ready for this. So I went and I did a front end engineering course at the Iron Yard in St. Pete, which I love the Iron Yard. Like, I don't care what anyone says about boot camps. Like, that was one of the best experiences of my life. They no longer exist. They're not there anymore. They became
STG, though.
Yes, they became STG, and I did teach there way later, like years later. UX design. So I went into there with years of experience as a user, basically a user experience designer, graphic designer with HTML and CSS knowledge, but now I needed that knowledge in version control and in JavaScript and in all of these things. And so I did this 12-week class while I was working full time. It was crazy, right? 2 kids, the whole 9 yards. And I got to the end and I realized that I really hated JavaScript. See a pattern in my life. But I did learn a lot, and I actually liked React quite a bit. The framework of React made sense to me, even though JavaScript wasn't necessarily my favorite thing. And I was able to use that knowledge and then my love for CSS to really get into that. And from there is where I really kind of launched into my first, what I would say is my first tech job, versus the other jobs that I've been doing, which were much more focused on e-commerce and graphic design and those kinds of things. Okay, I'll stop talking. Ooh,
That was really good. I actually really appreciate the SDG shout out because that community is amazing. They're
awesome.
Funny. Oh yeah.
Super awesome. I'm glad that Iron Yard actually morphed into and lives on in that community.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I remember hearing you talk at DevOps Days Tampa. This is over 2 years ago now, probably 3 years ago. But it was about your time at GitLab, designing the new UI. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
If I remember correctly, it was probably about the navigation redesign that we did. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, that was a huge project we did there. And I made the same mistake at that conference that I just made here, which is to drink Coke Zero. Hold on. I will never learn. I have water right in front of me. I will never learn. Moving on. So yeah, when I came on board at GitLab, so I was at a company based in Tampa called Mad Mobile for a couple of years. I was the UX. I started again I actually started as a developer there, UI UX developer, kind of on that, like the bridge between UI and UX design, and then became the manager there and running both of those teams. And then I went on to be hired at GitLab to run the design team there, the UX team. And the idea there was really, they were hopeful at the time that having someone that was knowledgeable about front end, one, would obviously fit in better with GitLab and understanding how to use GitLab, because everyone there used the tool. Everybody in that company, sales included, which usually, I mean, for a technical tool, that's not usually the case. Sales and marketing don't usually use it. Everybody there used it. And so, but when I came on board, they had this recent kind of crisis with their navigation where they had changed everything. They'd redesigned it to put everything in a hamburger menu. And so this was when they didn't have any user research department at the time. They didn't have a strong leadership in the UX area. So what would happen is they had a few designers, they would make recommendations, but really a lot of the decisions were being made by product management and engineering without a lot of input from design. And so there was this decision made that too much of the real estate was being taken up by this left sidebar that people weren't using. This was based on internal feedback from users of GitLab internally, because there's a lot of internal users. And I know, this happens a lot though in startups. And so everything gets stuck in this hamburger menu. And of course, Hacker News just exploded. We were like, what is this? You're on this giant monitor and you're this tiny little thing up here. And so immediately people created plugins so that you could anchor it. And there was kind of a workaround. And so I will give them credit in that the immediate reaction at the company was, let's revert it. And they were like, no, we're not going to revert it. Like, let's not have this knee-jerk reaction. Let's actually do some research. And luckily, they had brought on a researcher kind of in the middle of that decision that had been made. She had nothing to do with it. She's like, I'm just doing my research, and then this thing happens. But she had been actually gathering data that whole time, so she had some baseline. And then I came on board, and my first task was like, fix this. It's like, okay, I got this.
Order for your first thing.
Yeah, it was pretty intimidating. I will say it was pretty intimidating, but I will say that GitLab at the time had just the most incredible culture and team. And the designers there were just, I mean, amazing. We all rallied and we all agreed, I mean, we need to do research, right? So the way that we ended up doing it was we had that baseline research that the UX researcher had done. We were able to kind of understand a little bit better what the state of things had been before. And we had a very good idea of what they were now based on feedback. And we were able to come up with ideas on how to improve it based on some of the very obvious things. And we came up with 2 prototypes. And then we used those prototypes to do testing with users, not internally, but with actual users. And we did a lot of testing. And again, with GitLab, because it's open source, we have like a direct, like a main line with all of our users. So it was so easy, wonderfully easy to get feedback and to talk with people. And everyone was passionate about helping us make this better. And once we had gotten enough feedback, we converged those 2 prototypes into one that kind of took the best of both. And then we put that under a feature flag. And so again, we're not shoving everything out into it. We're not making people do things, especially when you're talking about a tool that is somebody's work. We're not talking about Facebook. This is what's so different, I think, about doing user experience design or design in general for developer tools and those kinds of things. Is that, people get frustrated with when Facebook changes things and they complain for a couple of days, but it's free and they get used to it and they move on. It's very different when it is part of your day-to-day job and your ability to do your work depends on it. And now you're slowing people down. And now you're potentially causing them to make errors. I mean, there's so many things that you have to think about, so many things beyond just irritating someone for a couple of days. So we wanted to be very, very careful. And we actually had to fight for the feature flag. We had to make the case for why the feature flag was important. Again, GitLab is very much a culture of put it out there and see what happens. Put it out there and see what happens. And it's also a culture of make the smallest change possible. But sometimes that change is too small. And with something like a navigation, this is an interconnected, it's like its own being, right? And you can't just make one small change and expect to be able to get a result from that. You have to make a lot of changes, and that inherently is going to be big, it's going to be disruptive, and you really need to let people play around with it first and see what's going to happen. And so I wanted to go 6 months and get feedback. We were able to get 2 release cycles, which I cannot believe it now, but I can't even remember how long 2 release cycles were at GitLab. I thought that would be in my brain forever. But I guess not. But it wasn't a long time.
Was it at least a month?
Yeah, I think it was at least a month. It might have been 2 months. I think we released once a month. So I think it was 2 months that we got.
That's not too
bad. It wasn't too bad. No, it wasn't too bad. And I will say we were able to get really good rapid feedback. And we were just constantly making those changes. To the navigation. It was probably one of the best experiences I've had in terms of getting research, that feedback loop with engineering and PM, and kind of getting things out there, and then just having that rally behind you of users and customers actually feeling like you're working for them. I think a lot of times they feel like, I've complained about this 20 times and you just don't seem to care. And I'm like, yes, I know, but there are other things that people have complained about 100 times that unfortunately are just higher priority. And I wish I could work 24/7 and fix everything, but I have to work down the priority list of things that will actually have a bigger impact. So.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So we just talked about the best. Let's talk about the, if not worst, something you would change. What advice would you give your younger self in regards to your career if you could go back and do it all over again?
I would just tell myself to chill out. Like I'm sure you can tell just by watching me talk, I'm an anxious person. I'm like, yeah, like I just, I got a lot of energy and I don't know how to relax. Vacations aren't my thing. I really enjoy what I do, and I put a lot of myself into what I do, and therefore I care a lot about outcomes and about particularly about teams and the teams that I'm building and that atmosphere. And so I tend to worry a lot, and I tend to go over things in my head and think about whether it went well or it didn't go well. And I've come to realize as I've gotten older that that's worrying does not make things better. That if I could go back, I would tell myself to be more open, to talk more to people about the way I'm feeling, the things that I'm thinking, and have those conversations versus keeping it bottled up and making assumptions and worrying so much about things, rather than just saying, hey, am I the asshole here? Like, excuse me, I'm sorry, can I not swear in your podcast?
No, asshole is totally fine. I dropped the line at the F word though.
Okay, I won't use that. Okay. Good thing you told me that though, because so, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us get held back by fear and worry early in our careers, and I think the older you get, the more you realize that there's very little you can do that's going to completely bomb your career or derail you completely, and that you learn more from your mistakes than you do from the things that you do right. And I think that perspective just changes things. And I just wish that I'd realized it earlier instead of now when I'm so much older with so much less time.
Yeah. You know what? That's probably the same advice I'd give myself. Stop worrying so much, especially with relation to imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've earned this, you've earned this. Stop worrying. You belong here,
Yeah, I still have to remind myself of that.
Yeah.
Especially of things that I know. And then I'm like, wait a minute, do I know? And I'm like,
yeah,
why are you even asking yourself that question? It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's interesting how we do that to ourselves. Although I will say I meet plenty of people that I know don't know, and they're convinced they know. And I'm like, how do you do that? That is like an amazing skill, to be so confident in yourself with absolutely nothing to back it up.
I think it's a lot of fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I just can't do that. I just can't do it.
All right, so we've talked about the past. Let's talk about the current. What's your favorite part about working for Honeycomb?
Oh gosh, I have so many favorite parts. The product itself is a joy to work on. It is insanely simple and complicated at the same time. I mean, you're querying your data, you're instrumenting your data so that you can ask it questions. That's very straightforward. It's very simple. At the same time, that presents a challenge from a user experience point of view of engineers, developers, they come into Honeycomb, and it's not like they press a button and it works, right? They have to invest. They have to put some effort in to reap the reward, to see the benefits. And so there's some play there. There's some things that we have to do to really convince them, like, we promise it's worth it, like just a little bit. And so there are things that we do that will give them a little bit more of that, instant, like, oh, okay, I can see. But then, we want to convince them, like, do that little bit of extra instrumentation, and it's really worth it. The things that you're going to be able to see about your application are amazing. It will blow your mind. And I really like that. I think that's a real challenge. And I love challenges. So product wise, it's fascinating. People wise, company wise, it is amazing to work with so many different people. I've never worked with such a diverse group of people in my entire life. I've never been in so many meetings where it's all women. It's all women. Like I know it sounds strange to say, but it's just so weird.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been in meetings where we'll sit there and all of a sudden we'll all go, there's no men in this room. This is really weird. And it just occurs to you every now and then you just kind of shrug and you move on with your life. Cause I mean, it's, whatever, but it's just a strange feeling sometimes because it's so unusual in this industry. So unusual. And there's just a sense of the people that work at Honeycomb are there because they're really passionate about what they do and they're really curious and excited about what they do, and that's infectious. And when you work in that environment, like there's just no way to describe it. And so that's exciting. I also love that my coworkers have a sense of humor. I'm all about, like, if you can't laugh, you're going to cry. Like, this is just like how life is. And so, like, we're constantly, my product manager, Megan, she is the VP of product. Let me correct myself. She's the VP of product. She is very important. She's also hilarious. And so we make these like crazy stickers and things. Like, so we did a product feature called time over time, which has a different name now, but in the beginning we called it time over time. And it was so that you could compare two graphs in a time series. You do a query and you'd want to look at the differences in two different time sets, which is not something you could do. And ta-da, now you can do it. And so she's like, we got to send out like little stickers to the team, to celebrate this win that we put this together. And so we came up with a Cyndi Lauper instead of time after time. And it's Cyndi Lauper looking out the window crying. And it's this time over time.
God.
And I don't know if it's just funny because we're Gen Xers or what, but like there's things like that we do. And we make these crazy t-shirts. It's just stuff like that, being able to have fun while you're working really hard on something. And when celebrating it in such a fun way, like that's really exciting. So
we have a Rick Astley t-shirt.
Say, like, you gotta have fun. If you don't have fun, like, what's the point?
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about your community involvement because, like we talked about earlier, SDG DevOps Days, but you've also been part of Women Who Code and Girl Develop It. So I wanted to see, with the pandemic, are you active in other ways right now, or have you just enjoyed the rest?
It wasn't so much the pandemic that took the wind out of my sails. I wrote a book 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago now, about design system, co-authored with Tori Davis at GitLab, another designer there. And, I don't know why I thought writing a book wasn't going to be that bad, but it was really pretty horrible. It was a lot. And I think after that, I did a lot of talks about the book, which was exciting and nice, but I really was just burnt out. I really got burnt out. And I started to feel very much like, I didn't know how much people were getting out of me standing up there and just talking. I felt much more like people got, and maybe I'm being selfish here. I got more out of one-on-one conversations. Like the people that I talked to afterwards who would wait around and want to have a conversation or a specific point, those were the conversations that I felt like were much more enriching and engaging overall versus me standing there and like wondering if anyone was even listening. And maybe it's because I was getting that feedback. Maybe people were getting something from me talking. But I don't know, I just kind of lost my for doing that. And I started to not really seek them out. I may be doing one in May. I haven't decided yet, but it would be remote. I did another one remote for Refactor in Atlanta because they are awesome. Refactor.tech is an amazing conference and everyone should check them out. But I did do one on accessibility for them. But I've really been focusing more on mentoring and one-on-ones and just kind of putting myself out there like, hey, if you have a question, if you want to chat about design and grab a cup of coffee and jump on Zoom with me, like it's totally cool. Like, let's do that. Because for me, that's, I'm being selfish. I get more out of that. So
That's understandable though. Burnout is real.
it is. Yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot of like, I don't think people realize how much goes into writing those talks and
making the slides.
And then I'm a designer, but I'm not a PowerPoint designer or a Google Slides designer. And like, every time I make a slide presentation, I agonize over slides more than anything. Like that's what does me in every single time. I should just hire someone to do it. And by the time I'm ready to do it, I'm so over it. And then I'm like, why did I decide to do this? I get up there and I do it and I'm so glad I did. It's like the same cycle every time. And I finally get to the point, I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like nobody needs this, especially my poor husband, who every time is like, it's just like, here we go again.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Oh yeah. It's a well-earned break.
Yeah.
So away from work and on to fun stuff. A while ago on SCG, you shared a picture of your board game collection. So I have to ask, favorite board game of all time?
My favorite board game of all time. This is so easy. It is Camp Grizzly.
Camp Grizzly.
So, and a lot of people have never heard of it. So I think there's only, I don't know how many actually got made. I want to say there's only like 1,000 out there. So it was a Kickstarter. I had never heard of it till my husband and I had been together 7 years. I don't know, something like that. Seems like forever to me. 7 years. And he had this game. And my kids were littler then. Look at me trying to do mental math. I'm like, how old were they then? They were like in middle school then. Now they're in high school and college. But so when we were first dating and we got together, we played board games like a lot of the time to just kind of get to know each other and kind of hang out as a family and like create that like family unit. And one of the games we played was Camp Grizzly. And so we have all these great, like now, like 7 years later, like it kind of became this thing that we all did. Camp Grizzly is a cooperative board game. And you are literally at a place called Camp Grizzly. You are camp counselors and you're trying to escape Otis. He is the killer and he has a teddy bear mask.
Oh.
And it has every trope from 70s and 80s horror movies that you can imagine. So like you're going around and you're going from cabin to cabin and you're working together. You're trying to find the items so that you can go to one of the 4 escape routes. There's either the van or the tower or the this or that. And you need like, for one of them, you need a rope, a car battery, and a gasoline can, right? And the other one, you need a rope, keys, and something else. And so you're turning these things over, but sometimes instead of keys or a gasoline can, it's a dead body, right? And then
oh my God.
And then the body count goes up, and then he gets faster, and then he gets more powerful. It's such a great game, and you'll find kids who like then like become your companion, but like a lot of times they're just not very helpful. They're like too slow, or they try to help you and they end up hurting you instead. And then your body count goes up. It's great. It's a really great game. Yeah, it's my favorite game.
Have you played Codenames?
Codenames, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good game.
Sheriff.
I like cooperative. I don't do well with competitive games. I don't care about winning. I have a plan. And when I have a plan, even if it's a losing plan, just let me do my plan. But if you take the card that I need, I get really annoying.
Yeah. I really
it's a mental thing.
Yeah. I enjoy games of betrayal. Not because I'm a jerk, but because nobody suspects the nice Canadian.
Oh, I see. I
always end up winning though.
But you probably have like a really good poker face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't. No. No, you can always tell when I'm going to do something. I always have like this evil grin on my face when I'm going to do something bad. Like, and everyone always knows. They're like, yeah, it's her. I'm like, what? I'm so innocent. No.
Innocent. Okay, another board game question, or not a question, a statement. Talk to us about your board game cafe.
So it's funny, the picture that you saw on the SDG forum is probably, it was our wall of board games that we had in our house. We had like a custom, we had a custom wall built.
Nice.
So I am an enabler. My husband has a board game problem, and I have a problem in that I enable that problem. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love board games. I really enjoy playing, and I love the art of board games. I think the art and the design is really the interesting, and the story part for me, probably why I like collaborative more. And he has this knack for finding just the coolest stuff. So I've kind of just like apparently been funding this board game empire. I didn't realize until one day I turned around and it was literally like I opened up, we had this wall of board games. I'm like, oh, that's nice. It looks nice. I'm like, this seems like a lot. Like, we don't even play all of these. And then I opened like a closet door and I was like, oh, there's board games in there. And then I opened another door. I'm like, there's board games in there. So I had to have an intervention.
Games everywhere.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I love you, but we have got to talk about this board game problem that we have. And for me, it was like, I don't care about things. I care about, like, for me, experiences are really a big thing. And which is why I like board games. But if I've got 500 board games, which at the time we had like 400 or 500 board games.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we couldn't play that many. I said, like, we have to make a decision. Either we cap ourselves and we make sure that we're playing them, or, what if we opened up a board game cafe? And my husband was like, like, whatever. Now, I have always secretly wanted to own my own business. I've always loved the idea. And I think a lot of people in tech have this secret dream of opening their own coffee shop. I don't know what it is. I think it's because we work in coffee shops. So we have like this romanticized like idea of them. Believe me, it's very romanticized now that I own one. Very. So it took me like 3 years to convince him. And when I finally convinced him to that, like, he just wasn't sure. He's like, and I was like, quit your job. I'll finance it. It's fine. We can do this. We found a spot in Zephyr Hills, and everything was going great. We were renovating, and then the pandemic hit right as we opened. Yeah. So we opened in March of 2020. Yeah. And luckily I'm a frugal person. I'm very, very careful. And so we were able to buy the building, so that the building that we're in, we pay mortgage. We also pay rent to ourselves, but that goes right into the mortgage. So like financially we're okay, but it has not been profitable because there's no business. So we've been kind of like, keeping it going. And every time we see things go up, we get another variant. So Delta hit us pretty hard, and now Omicron is starting to hit us pretty hard. But we will survive. We'll be okay. We opened up the second unit. That's where I'm in now. We do all our role-playing games. We have Dungeons and Dragons nights, 2 nights a week. We're going to do Kill Team League. So we do like Games Workshop, Warhammer stuff. But the most important thing is we're going for the Guinness Book of World Records for our board game cafe collection.
Nice.
We are at 1,839. The last time I counted. It's a lot of board games.
Oh my God.
You want to see them? I can show you.
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay for your podcast?
I will demand pictures.
Or I was going to say, I can walk over there and bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can take a screenshot from here.
I can send you pictures too.
Yeah. That is badass. So I didn't even know there were that many games out there.
There's like 10,000 games. So here is the front. It starts here. Ooh, boy.
Oh my gosh. That's
and
so
then
many.
It goes all the way down there.
Hold on, let me see
So
if I can take a screen cap of this. Wow. Okay.
so this is our yeah, this is the second love of my life. First is design, then there's this, third is my husband. He wouldn't
Where
care.
did the cats go?
Oh my God, wait, do you know about my cats?
Heck yeah, there's the cats channel. I saw you post them. They're Sphinx, right?
Oh my
long time ago.
goodness. I forgot how much people know about me. Do you know I have a cat mansion?
I did not know you have a cat
I have
man.
I have a cat mansion. I can't show you that because it's at my house. So I am also an enabler of rescuing too many cats. So now we have 8 cats, 9 cats, 8 or
Wow.
9 cats. Yeah. So we have a lot of cats. And it was way too many for the house. We spend most of our time at the cafe. So we retrofitted an outbuilding. Like we had the whole thing remodeled. And it's like a cat cafe, except it's not a cafe, it's just for cats. You walk in and there's tile all around the bottom half, and then there's all these cat runs, and they all have litter robots, and like it's insane.
Can I get a picture of that too, please?
Sure, I could send you a picture.
Oh, I love cats. My partner is allergic to cats.
Oh no. You should come visit my cat mansion. You can just come and pet cats.
Yeah.
You should come up and visit sometime and say hello. And that goes for anybody watching this. Like if you're in the area and you want to come talk about design or just come play some board games, like seriously, come hang out.
We should. What's the name of the board game cafe?
Oh yeah, I guess I should. I wonder why it's not successful. Geez, I can't imagine why. Here I am blaming COVID. I'm like, I just won't even say the name of it. It's called Your Turn, a board game cafe. It's in Zephyr Hills, Florida.
Yes, we'll link that in here. Final 2 questions. Number 1, is there anything exciting coming down the pipeline for you?
I don't know about exciting. I think this year I finally decided to, because I'm so into, rather than going out and speaking, I've been spending a lot of time with more focused mentorship. I'm really seriously considering going and getting certified in coaching. I've actually had a career coach this past year, and it was amazing. Honeycomb gives you a stipend for professional development, and I used it on a career coach at their, they were like, hey, this is something that you can look into and it might be helpful. And it so was, to the point where I was like, this might be something I would be interested in doing. So I'm excited about that and about the prospect of, because what I do in my day-to-day is more along the lines of building teams and building processes versus day-to-day design at this point.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really focused on. And I'd love to be able to do that one-on-one with people. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm hoping that I can make that happen.
Nice. All right. Final question. Is there anything else you would like to share with readers/listeners?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've overshared like way too much. I feel like people are going to be like, wow, typical American oversharing. You would never want to sit on a plane next to me, I promise. Actually, I would just probably be working the whole time. I don't know if I have anything else to share.
Perhaps a word of encouragement for other people who could be feeling burnout.
Oh gosh, yeah, if you're feeling burnout, one huge thing that I've also learned this past 2 years that took me forever to learn was that there's no shame in resting, that always doing something is not necessarily getting you somewhere. I've been a bit of a workaholic, busyholic kind of person. And I tend to feel very guilty if I'm not getting things done. or if I have something on my mind and I'm like, I'm trying to do it. And then the more I procrastinate, the worse I feel. And I've gotten very good at setting boundaries for myself and saying, hey, this ain't gonna happen today. So you're just gonna let it go till tomorrow. And for some reason that works for me now. Like my brain can go, oh, we have permission to let this go until tomorrow. And of course, the first thing that happens when I wake up is like, are we gonna do this thing today? And I'm like, yes, we're gonna do this thing today. But give yourself permission to relax and rest. And I think especially what I tell everybody, especially on my team right now, is that none of us are okay. Like I see a lot of people who are like, oh, you know, everything's fine. Nobody is okay right now. Like this is not normal. Everybody is dealing with something else on top of everything we're dealing with. And we're just all kind of trying to figure out how to keep going. And so if you're just surviving at work, if you're not thriving at work, that's okay. Like, that's fine. That's totally fine. I think we really have to be better to ourselves, because I have been very guilty of not being very nice to myself in my own head. And the things that, you know, the standards I try to hold myself up to are just impossible. And if you do that to yourself, you're probably going to do that to other people, you know. And I try to remember that as a manager, that that the way I talk to myself internally could extend out to other people. So it's important that I'm really careful with that. So if you're in any type of management position, like you have to really be careful with that, because it will get portrayed outward.
Yeah. I feel like you were talking to my heart about the whole productivity thing, because I have this huge issue too, where it's like, I feel like I always have to be productive. Yeah. Like never relax. There's always like a chore to do. If I'm not working time, I feel like I have to do something. So my partner and I recently took up video games. I've been playing Diablo 2 Resurrected with him.
Oh boy.
It's been so nice just being able to like go like, you know what? We can do that tomorrow. Let's just figure it out, you know?
Yep. My thing is so terrible. My husband and I watch Slapped Ham on YouTube.
Okay.
So I know it's the worst name for anything ever. It's the stupid channel where it's all like paranormal videos, and it's all like, you know, is it a UFO? Is it a ghost? He and I are like the biggest, like, it's obviously bullshit. Like, it's not real. It's like, we know that it's crap, but we just love laughing at this stuff. And like, I mean, we just like sit there and watch it. We're like, he's like, is it a UFO? And me and my husband will look at each other and go, nope, no, it's not. But I don't know why this is so entertaining to us, but like, this is our downtime. Like, this is our just ridiculous filler. Don't have to think, like, just turn your brain off. And like, some of them are so ridiculous, we just crack up laughing. Like, we're like, who believes this? So like, now when we're places and we see something happen, we'll like point at it and go, oh, we should have taped that. We could have sent it to Slapped Ham, you know, like you're in the grocery store and things happen and you're like.
The other day, oh my gosh, I was driving down 589. And from a certain angle, I could have sworn it was a UFO, and I took a picture and I sent it to my partner. And then I take a curve and I can see it, and it's just the freaking Goodyear blimp.
Yeah.
And I felt so stupid, but I was like, oh.
You don't feel stupid. I just, you know, for a second it looked like a UFO, you know. But that's what they do with these videos. Yeah. That's what I love, because they'll show the video and they always cut it off like right before they get to like, or like, show us the rest of the video where you can totally tell that this is crap, and you know. But
yeah, it's never a UFO.
it's my guilty pleasure. But I tell people, and then they think I really believe in UFOs and stuff. And I'm like, no, it's like ironic. I'm watching it ironically, like sarcastically. I don't really believe it.
Oh, that's the best though. They're so fun to watch.
Oh, it is. It really is. Oh my goodness.
Well, this was an amazing conversation. I want to genuinely thank you for your time. It's really great.
Yeah. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And I hope that I talked about something that was useful to somebody. But I had fun.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And readers, listeners, thank you as well.